everybody. I am Leilani. You are tuned in to the Boss Women Network podcast. Today, we are honored to speak with Dr. Christina Porter, the executive director of the Chauncy Glover Project, which is a transformative mentoring organization that has been changing lives since 2013. This conversation comes at a powerful time as the organization prepares for its sixth annual Black Tie Gala on June 14th, honoring the legacy of its visionary founder, the late Chauncy Glover. He is a three-time Emmy Award-winning journalist who dedicated his life to uplifting young men of color. And under Dr. Porter's leadership, she continues to grow and impact the mission. So let's dive into her journey, the heart behind the Chauncy Glover Project, and the mission that continues despite his loss. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm so happy you are here. So can you tell us more about your role as the executive director of the Chauncy Glover Project?
Yeah, so I have been a part of the program since the project came to Houston when Chauncy moved and joined ABC 13 in 2016.
Okay.
And so, started off, I was supposed to be kind of in the background and just kind of, giving ideas or helping to, give guidance, because of my background in education. And so eventually it just kind of led into me, kind of taking care of the day-to-day business and, being the one to communicate with the parents and the board, making sure everybody was where they were supposed to be at all times, making sure everybody was fed, all of the things. Wow. That hasn't really changed much in the last 9 years.
So you started at the very beginning.
I started at the very beginning from when it came to Houston. So it was already established when Chauncy was in Detroit. And so that's where he birthed the program from a breaking news story he had to go on where he witnessed a young man die on the streets of Detroit after attempting to rob the school's basketball. And so during that time, while, it's just something that kind of stuck with him and he just really couldn't let it go. So he ended up going back to that school and asking to speak with all of the boys of the friends of that young man who passed. And so eventually he started to meet with them regularly, bring them food, and in some kind of way it just turned into a mentoring program. And so here we are today and continuing the legacy because, our boys of color are faced with so many different obstacles and periods of adversity and things. And so our program basically teaches them to be able to overcome those things and to focus on their success rather than their failures.
I love that. That is great because we don't have, we may have them, but I don't know of a lot of mentorship programs for Black men or young Black men coming up. A lot of them have so many struggles and they're going through so much. A lot of them are in single parent homes or they're living with their grandparents.
Yeah.
So they need guidance. That is great what y'all are doing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So losing Chauncy was a heartbreaking moment for so many. How have you and the team honored his legacy while continuing to push forward the mission?
It is just remembering all of the things that he instilled in the program and instilled in the boys. We are lucky to be in a position to where all of the boys who are in the program now have been in the program at least 2 to 3 years. This is actually the first group that has had to experience not having him around. And so they have their memories from 2 and 3 years ago and all of the things that they learned from him prior to even moving to Los Angeles. And so it's a very special moment for all of us because it's sort of kind of, we're the first group to really kind of take over the legacy and to help push the legacy forward. So I think it's been very therapeutic for all of us to be in this experience together. And they really want to do this and prepare this gala for their founder and for their mentor. And I actually just left them. And so it's just, they're determined to really see it through. It's not an easy process and it hasn't been easy. And so I really do take solace in knowing we're continuing Chauncy's legacy, but also for the boys and what they have to show and prove to the world that they have been listening and they have been paying attention and that they will promise to continue and keep it going. Which brings to why we have the theme that we chose for this year's gala, which is the Pulse of Brotherhood. Represents Chauncy and all of the things that he left behind. And he continues to carry on and they carry on his pulse through their beat and the things that they continue to do and how they continue to go through life. And so that's kind of, it's guided by his light and driven by his vision. So
I love that.
that's the theme for this year's show.
So what is the age group or the age limit?
So we have right now, the group is all high school seniors. So our last one graduates tomorrow. And so they've been the last couple of weeks, it's just been one by one, and then walking across the stage and meeting that period in their life. That's where we are right now. You know, typically we will have a younger age group in middle school, and then also work with sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So, you know, we kind of determined prior to Chauncy's leaving that we would get this group of seniors off because they have been in the program for a while, and we got to get them across the stage and get them through their program and their culmination experience. And so the gala becomes a really big piece of their development while being in the program. And people probably don't understand that a lot.
Yeah.
Just because, and it becomes with the preparation piece of it. You know, I did my doctoral research on the program. In my research, it really came about that the gala was like the culminating moment of their experience within the program, because they spend so much time rehearsing. They are writing their own monologues and they are sharing their own stories. It's a big storytelling element. With the gala, we expect for it to be like a sit-down banquet dinner, and we don't even have tables. We are in a theater style seating. They are on stage. They are doing a performance piece, and then they're sharing their individual stories. The storytelling piece allows them to have their own voice. This group is often silenced, and they don't get to share their experiences. They don't get to bond over their experiences often. And so this gives them that moment and that ability to do and to be able to express it to people who might not necessarily hear them or understand them. It's kind of twofold. It's therapeutic for them, and then it becomes therapeutic for the audience to get a different perspective.
Yeah, and the other young guys that's coming up behind them.
Absolutely. And to be able to see that they're not the only ones.
Yeah, I love that. So are y'all still recruiting, or are you just basically working with this group, and then once they are all graduated?
We usually try to open up the recruitment process around the same time that we're ending out the last group. They usually follow the school year pattern typically. So as we're closing out this group and they're headed off to college, then you kind of start to bring in the next group. And so it will, of course, be dependent upon what his family wants to do, as far as obviously they want to continue the legacy. They would, of course, make the final determination on what that looks like, where that looks like, and all of those things. But, you know, we are here and ready to work, you know, whatever decision that they decide to make.
Your background is rooted in education and mentorship. What inspires you most about working with the young men in this program?
I think what inspires me the most is just being able to see them and to be able to light a spark within them, and to, when I get the calls or the emails years later, or the text messages, just to check in, because these are my boys. Over the years, I've been like almost the only female around. And so they tend to kind of check in on me and, you know, ask me if I need anything and ask how my daughter's doing. They refer to her as their sister and, you know, that kind of thing. But being able to see them overcome, and while they're going through the program, they tend to experience so much. We have one that we met and he was sleeping on a park bench. Now he's since gone to college, he's graduated, he's pledged a fraternity, and he's now a father himself. And
that's amazing.
It's, you know, so to see that trajectory and to see the elevation from where they started to where they are now and continuing to go. We've got them in law school, we got them in the military, like they're all over and they're doing amazing things. And it's all because of the little nuggets that, you know, we planted early on, that they are able to take with them, you know, as they, you know, get older and become men in society.
What are some of the steps that y'all take to help them excel?
Absolutely. So Chauncy created a specific curriculum. And so the curriculum is based off of life skills training. So we have what we call empowerment sessions. And so we do group mentoring and the one-on-one mentoring. So, you know, when you look at research-based mentoring and things of that nature, a lot of people just expect, oh, I'm just going to get a mentor, and then that's just going to be it. Well, when you're working with a population of young men of color, us as people of color, we thrive on a familial
Right.
situation. We love family, we love cookouts, love communing with
Also,
where the group mentoring comes in, because that's where they are in the space together and they learn together, they piggyback off of each other, and it's that group mentoring space in the empowerment sessions that really kind of start to prepare them. So those empowerment sessions include like trainings like college and career readiness, public speaking, which is the big part of, where the gala comes into play, and teaching them about owning their identity and, incorporating things like the arts, which can help with their self-identity and being confident to be able to talk to people and to introduce themselves and to really own a room and, feel confident in who they are. We talk about financial responsibility. How do you manage a bank account? How do you pay bills? Do you live within your means, or what do you do as you're going through and preparing, for your first job, and, all of the things. We can't operate off Cash App, so,
no, we can't operate off Cash
it's
App.
such an easy thing to do as a teenager, but at some point we got to go to the bank. And so police interaction training, what to do if you get pulled over. So we've had police officers come in and just talk to them one-on-one, and really saying like, okay, this is their perspective, and then here's your perspective. What should you do in this situation? How are you going to be able to get home safely to your family? So just all of those little things that we feel like, really encompass their social experiences and cultural experiences and even academic experiences. All of those things that they learn within the program, they're transferable, so they're able to translate them into just everyday life, or even being at school, being a good citizen at school. Yes, it's good to have a good time, but how are you, when you walk out of this room, you represent the Chauncy Glover Project. You represent all of the things that we teach you within the motto that you recite every day. You're supposed to be walking and encompassing that all the time. And so that's what we want them to know and to learn as they go through this journey from young men into gentlemen.
I love that. A lot of our boys, even our girls, they're not getting that type of training. Some of them not getting that type of training at home. And, the schools aren't teaching that type of knowledge.
Absolutely.
So that is definitely.
We even try to make sure that we kind of encompass the whole family. So we even provide training to the families and to the parents on, what do you need to know about the FAFSA and applying to college? Because, a lot of our boys are first generation college students.
Right.
And so just teaching them and having sessions to help the parents and to help the boys, so that they're kind of going through the process together, because you don't know what you don't know. And so we want to make sure that they have the knowledge that they need in order to help their boys be successful. So
that is a beautiful thing. I love that project, the Chauncy Project. That is beautiful. I hadn't even heard of it till they reached out to me for you to come on the show. I was like, but I've heard of him. I didn't know he had a project. So I was like, wow, that's beautiful. Just to know that. And then for you to explain the full detail of it all is like amazing. Because I know these young guys, if we don't grab them early, they'll get lost out here in the system.
It's so interesting to always hear their stories, and how they never thought they could even think about going to college, and now here they are, signed up to go, and or have a scholarship and things of that nature. That's kind of what the program is all about, is to kind of instill hope and possibility, and to let them know that there is more that's out there for you. You don't have to just do what you see on social media or on TV. Like, you can have dreams and you can achieve those dreams, and we can help put you in a space to where you know what you need to do to make that happen.
Giving them the right mind tools.
Absolutely.
You're not really pushing sports on them. You're pushing knowledge.
Absolutely. No, now they do play sports, but Chauncy was a big, firm person in saying, well, that's not gonna always pay. When you say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Yes, you can do that, but what happens afterwards? Because it doesn't last always. And so you got to have a plan. And so, because in the beginning we do vision boards. And they have to create vision boards to, kind of envision what they want for themselves and what that looks like. And then we say, okay, now that you have your vision, what are our goals and what are our steps to achieve this?
Are they becoming mentors after this, some of them?
Absolutely. Actually, the first group of mentees that Chauncy had in Detroit, One of those young men actually lives here in Houston now, and he's been a mentor with our program.
Oh, cool.
And so he was, one of Chauncy's first mentees. And so, they tend to go and they tend to pay it forward. They tend to take some of the things that they've learned and they kind of use it wherever they are, So we had one young man who pledged a fraternity over at the University of Houston, and at some point he became president of the fraternity. He said, well, we would be preparing for things and we were having our show and things like, he was like, I used to do the same things that y'all used to do for us when we were preparing for the gala. So I made them do all of those, so it's just all about, taking that knowledge and utilizing it and applying it to wherever you are. And so they never forget that.
That's pretty cool, y'all. Make sure y'all check out that Chauncy project going on over here.
Absolutely.
And the black tie, is it for everybody?
It is absolutely for everybody. All roads lead to the Black Tie Gala, and it's putting on your fancy dresses and let's go, and everybody's going into the theater and gonna watch the show. The people, and they want to show exactly, kind of what they've been through, who they are, and how they are ready to take on the world. And we want to have the community come out and, because when we invest in our young men, then we invest in the future of our community.
That's so true.
And so it is for everybody. The tickets are $100 for VIP tickets and then $50 for general admission. VIP tickets will get you access to the hors d'oeuvres and food that happens at the after reception and, reserved seating during the show to be a little closer to the action. But everybody is invited to attend. All of our tickets are being sold on our website, www.thechauncygloverproject.org. And so they can go there and click on there. We're also honoring some of our local leaders within the community. And so that will be our Mayor Pro Tem, Martha Castex Tatum from Houston City Council, as well as Jerry Autry. He is the founder of Suits for Sons, which is another mentorship organization that actually works with students once they've gotten to college.
Oh, I love that.
And so their program supports them. It picks up where we leave off.
Oh, that's good.
In a sense. And also Marvin Pierre, who is the co-founder and CEO of 8 Million Stories, who actually is a program that works with students who have been formerly incarcerated. He helps them get their finished school and go into the workforce or even going off to college. And so some amazing people within our community that are doing some great work. And so we always take time to honor them during our Black Tie Gala as well, to make sure that others know the work that is happening within our community. Because like you said, it's very little, people know about a lot of the good things that are happening. And we want to make sure that we showcase that and celebrate their great work, as well as celebrating the legacy that Chauncy has left behind. And making sure that it continues from now and moving forward. And so it's going to be a celebration. It's exciting. We're really looking forward to it. And, once they finish off that stage, I know it's going to be, such a big relief for them. And so I'm really happy to see what they can do and to show the people what they can do.
I love it. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
I never felt like I fit in. No matter how helpful I tried to be, people always found a reason to have an issue with me. I've never had a group that let me be me or even be honest about my struggles. But the soft life hustle gave me something I didn't know I needed: permission. Permission to stop performing. Permission to lead myself. Leilani's story showed me how to rise with grace, set boundaries, and grow in integrity. It's not about fitting in anymore. It's about finally feeling whole.
All right, y'all. We are back, Boss Women Network. We are still here with Dr. Porter here. So let's go into our last couple questions before we jump on out of here and wrap it up for today and let her get finished planning this big event. The program emphasizes manhood. We may have already ran by this question though. The program emphasizes manhood, etiquette, financial literacy, and even the arts. Why is it important to take such a holistic approach to mentoring?
I think it's important because I think it just takes into account real life, because in order to be able to help and support this group of young men, you have to be able to understand their experiences and what's waiting for them on the other side.
Oh, that is so true.
And so if you don't, like I said, about the curriculum and things, if you don't plan for those things, how can you prepare them to go into this world?
That's true.
So etiquette is important. How do how are you supposed to wear your clothes? How do you tie a tie?
That's true.
Little things that I think sometimes are often taken for granted. You have to teach from the beginning, so that kind of stuff is important, because if we're we can't just say, oh, I'm your mentor, and then send them off into the world and expect them to do great things.
That's
if
true.
You haven't prepared them.
Sounds like you're teaching them character and integrity as well.
Absolutely. And responsibility.
Yeah.
We hold them accountable. Being a part of the program means that, you show up, because the program doesn't work if you're not here, and we can't help you if we don't see you. And
That's
how do
true.
you get the information that we're trying to share with you if you're doing other things? And so it's accountability on their attendance, accountability on the way that they dress. When they come to our program on Saturdays, they are in, business attire. They have their gold jackets that they've earned to be able to wear.
They dressed up. GQ.
Yes, absolutely. In ties and, slacks and, button down shirts and dress shoes. Like that is a standard within our program, and they know that. And so we want to make sure that we hold them accountable, and then they begin to hold each other accountable too. And they, start to trust that, the things that we're trying to teach them, the things that we're trying to instill in them, that we do have their best interest in mind. And we're not just doing it because, it sounds good or it looks good or it's, going to make them upset. It's because we know what's coming, and we want to make sure that they're prepared for what's coming, even though they may not have experienced it now. It's going to come at some point.
Life is gonna life.
Absolutely. Life is always going to life. And then, that empowerment, once they have the tools and the knowledge, then, they can be pretty much unstoppable.
Yeah, that's true. They'll be able to handle it.
And then we're big on the brotherhood. It's all about, being your brother's keeper and looking after your brother, because we all we got. That's where that family element comes into play, because we have built a family. We want to teach them to check on each other. If somebody's missing, somebody need to find out where they are.
That's true.
Are they going through something? Do they need something? And maybe they're just, they don't want to say anything, or they're embarrassed to say anything. We want them to find out. And so even preparing for this gala, that becomes a part of that, that growth and development process, because now they're having to depend on each other. Because when they're on that stage, Dr. Christie is not there. Dr. Christie is in the audience, sitting back, waiting to be entertained. And so, they have to be able to depend on each other and count on each other.
So they're putting this whole thing together themselves. You're just overseeing, but they're doing organizing.
They are a big component. We have, people on our staff who have, helped to write scripts and things of that nature.
Okay.
But when it came to choosing the theme and all of that, it was the type of leader that I am. We are a group. We are. So what do you want to do? I've left them the day and said, okay, what do y'all want to do? Let's lay it out on the table. What is your decision? Because you're the ones who are going to have to do it.
Right.
I can sit here and tell you all day long what I think you should do, but ultimately you're going to be the one responsible. So what is it that you want to do? Because you're young adults.
Yeah.
You're about to go off to college. You can't call mama and daddy or anybody to fix anything that happens while you're away at school or anything like that. You have to be ready to make a decision and stand on that decision. And if that's what you want to do, then you put in the work. And so that's what we try to teach them and try to make them equal parts of their learning process. It's just like being a teacher, you want to make sure that your students become invested in the process, because if they don't buy in,
they're not going to even pay attention.
They're not going to pay attention. They're not going to learn anything. They're not going to do anything. So they have to be invested. And so in order to do that is you invite them into even parts of the decision making. Ultimately, will I make some of the final decisions? Absolutely. But I like to get feedback. Tell me how you really feel. Give me the, so that I can have all the information, because I can't make a solid decision if I don't know what you need or how things may affect you.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So what can our audience do to support?
My goodness, come see them. That would be the number one thing is come and, purchase a ticket to come to the gala. come see them, come show up for them. They've worked so hard to prepare these monologues and to be able to be vulnerable enough to share their stories and to get over the nerves that, they're feeling right now. And, some of them are really, they have to drudge deep into, things from their past to really, kind of go and dig into where they started and where they're going. And so, just the support of knowing that they have people rallying around them and that are there to support them and cheer them on and to hear their story. That's the biggest way that, you can help support us is buy tickets, buy tickets, buy tickets.
Buy tickets.
They are on Eventbrite, and you can get to that from our social media pages or from our website. And so we just want everybody, the community, to come out and support us. When Chauncy passed, there was such an outpouring of support and wanting to keep the program going. And we want the community to know that we have been working, that the boys they've been learning and, even learning how to deal with each other, learning how to deal with strangers and what happens when you have a roommate, and, all of the things that you just don't think about will happen. But we want to make sure that they just have some sort of experience or, knowledge of what to do in those situations. And they're really to just show the world, show Houston what they've been up to. And to be able to say, here we are, world. And, we are gentlemen and we are ready to continue the legacy. And Chauncey's legacy lives on through them and everything that they do. And they want people to know that.
Well, y'all heard it from her, y'all. There you have it. So make sure y'all tune in and go check out the Black Tie event. Again, tell us one more time, how can they find you and how can they purchase tickets to the event before we get out of here?
Absolutely. So you can find us on Instagram at the CG Project HOU and Facebook for the same, the CG Project HOU, the Chauncy Glover Project Houston. And so follow our social media pages. We're also doing a sponsor a gent campaign. If you want to donate to help sponsor a gent so that all of our gents can walk away with some sort of scholarship or funding so that they can go off to school, then there's information on how you can donate there. Go to our website, www.thechaunceygloverproject.org. There you can buy tickets, you can donate, you can find information about donating to the gala. If you want to become a sponsor, we're always looking for corporate sponsors. Purchase VIP tickets, purchase general admission tickets. We'll have food and drinks there. All the drinks sold at the event, a portion will be donated back to our organization. So we want to make sure you do that. We will have a couple of special guests. So we're looking forward to, our host for the evening, comedian Billy Sorrells, who is a Houston native. He's going to be our host for the evening, as well as a special appearance by actor Kendrick Sampson. So please make sure you come out and support. And Kendrick's been a friend of the organization for some time. He was also a friend of Chauncey's as well as Billy. And so come on out, y'all celebrate, y'all help us send these boys off to college. And the money that we raise helps to provide them for scholarships. It also helps to, provide money for programming and operations so that the program can continue. And so we just really want, we want your face in the place, put on your nice dresses, get cute, get nice, and come on out and have a good time, a good evening with us Saturday, June the 14th at the AD Players Theater in the Galleria area on Westheimer near Sage. So we really want you to come out and just have a good time with us.
What is the address? Do you know it, or we need to just go to the website?
We probably can go to the website, but it is right off of Westheimer. You cannot miss it. It's Westheimer and Sage, right past the Doubletree Hotel and the Walgreens that's on there on that corner. It's right there. It's the 80 Players Theater. It's the George Theater. It's beautiful with glass ceilings.
Oh, wow.
And so it's going to look beautiful at night while we're all dressed up and glistening in our gowns. Bring out your sequins, do everything. Let's get cute and let's get ready to celebrate our boys. We're also being sponsored by Men's Warehouse, who are providing our, costumes and uniforms for the boys to wear the night of the event. And so it's really going to be a great time.
Yeah, I heard
so we're serious. We're serious. We're wearing tuxedos. So get your tuxedos and your gowns together, you know, however you want to do it. Ooh, and if you mention the Chauncy Glover Project, the Men's Warehouse will give you a discount if you go and get your tuxedo rental for them. So follow our social media page on Instagram. That information is posted there of how you can get in on that little discount.
All right, y'all. Well, you have heard it from Dr. Porter. And guess what? We're out of here. Don't forget to tune in to the bosswomannetwork.com. Go check out the website. You can see all these episodes. You can go to YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you find a podcast at, you will find the Boss Women Network. But go to the bosswomannetwork.com. And until next time, guys, bye.
Bye.